Welcome back. Today we are talking about 20, Judgment. And I had to do a little bit of temporary censorship on this one as well, and also the next one, which I don't love, but it is the world we live in, so I'm not going to fight it. Anyway, Sallie Nichols wants us to think about Judgment as reinvigoration of the psyche and ego self through conscious reconnection with the four functions. If you don't quite remember what the four functions are, I totally get it. That was 16 cards ago. We talked about it in card 4, the Emperor. So go back and watch that if you want a deeper dive. But just very surface level, we have 4 ways of interacting with information and the world around us. They are classified by Jung as thinking, feeling, intuition, and sensation. Do you see how I tried to put the two together? And generally, we all have one that is strongest or one that is easiest for us that we automatically go to. That's our superior function. And then we sort of develop 2 of the other functions as sort of safety nets for when our superior function doesn't get us all the way that we need to go. And those are our auxiliary functions. And the last is our inferior function, which we try to avoid at all costs because we don't like it and it's hard to use and we don't have experience with it. This ties into a little bit the idea of self-improvement as a fallacy, which I talked about as an idea presented by Alan Watts a couple of cards ago, but that Sallie Nichols, strangely enough, reinforces here at pretty much the end of the chapter. She does this using the framework of the map of the journey that we talked about, I think after card 10, maybe card 11, and is chapter 2 of this book. But she says, it is easy to make connections between it, card 20, Judgment, and the 2 cards which stand directly above it on the vertical axis, 6, the Lover, and 13, Death. One might say that the topic dealt with in this vertical row is death and rebirth. Death of the old ego and its resurrection in a new form. Because this is the fallacy of self-improvement that I talked about in terms of Alan Watts' idea. That we see the ego as an obstacle, as a roadblock, something to destroy on our way to the higher self, to a better version of ourselves. And so one way to do this is, as Sallie Nichols puts in this, to take a look at our Jungian functions and recontextualize how we connect with them and how we express them. So we look at our superior, our auxiliary, and our inferior functions and try to realign ourselves to this ideal version of ourselves, a higher self, a better me. And then we go out and try that out in the real world, and if it works, then we feel like we have achieved that higher self. But as soon as we achieve that higher self, the ego self-identifies with that higher self, that better you. Because we think we have destroyed it, the ego, but all we have really done is taken it apart, piecemeal, looked at all the pieces, decided that we could put it back together in a different way, and we think we have conquered it by doing this. But all we have done is rearrange it. And so the ego aligns with the higher self, and then some days may go by, some months, some weeks, some years, some decades, and we get this idea that there's a different higher self, a better me that I could be. And it's just the same cycle. We keep going through it over and over and over again. And so taking this as an illusion, because there's so much, like this is a very clearly Abrahamic religion imagery. This is Abrahamic imagery of the birth, death, resurrection cycle that happens quite often, actually, in Abrahamic religions. And instead, Sallie Nichols is applying it to the idea of the self and the higher self. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Thank you very much for listening. We only have one more card to go. It is 21, The World. I'm very excited. Okay, love you, bye!